Imagine holding a flashlight and pointing it straight down into the deepest part of our planet's oceans. The beam would travel for over 11 kilometers, that's 6.5 miles, before hitting the bottom. But here's what's truly remarkable. Your light would die completely in just the first 200 meters. Beyond that point, in a realm that covers more than 99% of our planet's living space, eternal darkness reigns. Before we continue this journey, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story resonates with you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extraordinary for you. 3.5 billion years ago, when Earth was still finding its rhythm, our oceans began collecting secrets. Today, those waters hold mysteries that challenge everything we think we know about physics, biology, and the very nature of reality itself. We're talking about 321 million cubic miles of seawater, a volume so vast that if you could somehow gather all the fresh water on Earth, all the ice, all the rivers and lakes and underground aquifers, it would represent less than 3% of what the oceans contain. Here's what's really happening in the deep ocean. We exist in a place where the familiar rules of our surface world simply don't apply. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, 36,200 feet below the waves, the pressure reaches 15,000 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, that's like having a full-grown elephant standing on every square inch of your body. The pressure is so intense that it would crush a nuclear submarine like an empty soda can in less than a second. Yet life thrives there. Not just survives, thrives. In 1960, two remarkable men named Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh descended into this alien world aboard a vessel called the Trieste. Picture a steel sphere barely large enough for two people hanging beneath. A massive float tank filled with gasoline, the only substance light enough to provide buoyancy at those crushing depths. As they sank through the layers of our planet's greatest frontier, they expected to find a barren wasteland, a place too hostile for any form of life. They were completely wrong. At the very bottom of Challenger Deep, in the most extreme environment, our planet has to offer, their lights illuminated something extraordinary. A fish, casually swimming past their porthole as if the crushing pressure were nothing more than a gentle breeze. That single moment changed everything we thought we knew about the limits of life. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. Since that historic dive, we've sent increasingly sophisticated machines into the depths, and every single expedition has revealed something that shouldn't exist, according to our understanding of biology and physics. We've discovered creatures that generate their own light through chemical reactions, bioluminescence, creating cold fire that burns without heat in the eternal darkness. We've found organisms whose bodies operate on principles that seem to violate the fundamental laws of thermodynamics. The universe has a surprise for us, waiting in these depths. The ocean doesn't just contain mysteries, it actively creates them. Consider this remarkable fact. We have mapped the surface of Mars in greater detail than we have mapped the floor of our own oceans. We've explored less than 20% of the sea floor, and even that 20% continues to yield discoveries that rewrite textbooks. Every time we send a camera or a submersible into a new region, we find something that changes our understanding of what's possible. Here's what's actually happening when you look at the ocean. You're seeing the largest unexplored frontier remaining on our planet. But it's not just unexplored. It's actively mysterious in ways that challenge our most basic assumptions about how the natural world works. Take electromagnetic fields, for instance. On land, these fields follow predictable patterns. We can map them, measure them, and use them to navigate with remarkable precision. But in certain regions of the ocean, electromagnetic readings spike, without warning, to levels that shouldn't be possible outside of a physics laboratory. Ships' compasses don't just malfunction. They spin at 3,000 revolutions per minute, while their instruments record magnetic field strengths 10,000 times greater than Earth's normal background magnetism. The ocean operates on scales that stretch our ability to comprehend. If you could drain all the water away, you'd see mountain ranges that dwarf the Himalayas, canyons that make the Grand Canyon look like a scratch in the dirt, and volcanic systems so massive they reshape the very geography of our planet. The Mid-Atlantic Ridge, the underwater mountain chain that runs down the center of the Atlantic Ocean, is longer than the Rocky Mountains, the Andes, and the Himalayas combined. But size is just the beginning of what makes the ocean truly alien. In the deepest trenches, where the pressure would instantly flatten any surface dweller, we've discovered gravitational anomalies that pull objects sideways instead of down. We've recorded temperature inversions where water becomes warmer as you go deeper, the exact opposite of what should happen according to the laws of physics. And then there's the life itself. When we exist in a universe where the sun's energy drives almost everything on land, the deep ocean has learned to thrive on entirely different sources of power. Creatures down there feed on chemicals seeping from the Earth's core, converting sulfur and methane into energy through processes we're still struggling to understand. They've evolved sensory systems that detect electrical fields so weak they're measured in billionths of a volt. Some species navigate using magnetic fields, others by sensing minute changes in water pressure that would be invisible to our most sensitive instruments. Here's what's really remarkable. Many of these deep-sea organisms exhibit quantum coherence at body temperature, a phenomenon that quantum physicists thought was impossible outside of laboratory conditions, approaching absolute zero. These creatures are somehow maintaining quantum states in their biological systems while living in one of the most chaotic environments on Earth. The darkness itself has become a creative force. Without light to guide evolution, life in the deep ocean has developed solutions that seem borrowed from science fiction. Creatures generate their own illumination, not just for navigation, but for communication, for hunting, for defense. They've created an entire ecosystem based on living light, bioluminescent gardens that bloom and fade in patterns we're only beginning to decode. But perhaps the most unsettling discovery is this: the ocean appears to be actively generating new mysteries faster than we can solve the old ones. Every technological advance we make, every new instrument we deploy, reveals phenomena that weren't there before, or weren't detectable before. The question that keeps marine scientists awake at night is whether we're discovering things that have always existed, or whether the ocean itself is evolving in response to our efforts to understand it. Consider the recent discovery of localized entropy reversals, regions where the natural tendency toward disorder appears to run backward. In these zones, scattered particles spontaneously organize themselves into complex patterns. Heat flows from cold areas to warm ones, and time itself seems to flow at a different rate. These aren't laboratory curiosities. They're naturally occurring. Phenomena covering areas the size of city blocks, operating according to principles that shouldn't exist in our universe. When we look at the ocean's deepest regions through the lens of modern physics, we find a realm where quantum effects operate at macro scales, where electromagnetic forces behave like living entities, and where the boundary between the possible and impossible becomes remarkably fluid. The pressure that would crush our strongest submarines somehow enables biological processes that violate everything we thought we knew about the limits of life. The numbers alone are staggering. The ocean contains 99% of Earth's living space, yet we've examined less than 1% of that space in any meaningful detail. If the ocean were a library, we've opened fewer than 10 books and found that each one is written in a language we don't yet understand, describing sciences we haven't yet discovered. And here's perhaps the most humbling realization of all. Every mystery we solve in the depths reveals 10 new questions we didn't even know to ask. The ocean doesn't surrender its secrets. It trades them for deeper enigmas that challenge not just what we know, but what we're capable of knowing. As we stand on the shore and look out at the waves, we're seeing only the thinnest skin covering, a world more alien than anything we've imagined on distant planets. Beneath those familiar waves lies a realm where creatures generate electric fields strong enough to short-circuit our equipment, where sounds travel that are too loud to come from any known source, and where the very laws of physics seem to bend under the weight of 6 miles of water. The deep ocean is our planet's last great frontier, but it's more than that. It's a laboratory where nature experiments with possibilities we never dreamed existed. It's a place where the universe shows us that reality is far stranger, far more flexible, and far more wonderful than we ever dared to imagine. Tomorrow, we'll descend into this realm of eternal darkness and follow the paths of ships and aircraft that have sailed and flown into complete mystery. We'll explore what happens when human technology encounters phenomena that shouldn't exist, and we'll discover that sometimes the most rational explanation is that we're dealing with something beyond rational explanation. The ocean is waiting. It has been waiting for 3.5 billion years. And it has so much more to show us. On December 4th, 1872, the merchant vessel Dei Gratia spotted something troubling on the horizon between Portugal and the Azores. Captain David Morehouse peered through his spyglass at a brigantine sailing erratically, her sails partially set, but clearly in distress. As his crew drew closer, they could see that the ship, the Mary Celeste, was sailing under partial sail with no one at the helm. When Morehouse's men boarded the vessel, they discovered something that would haunt maritime history for the next century and a half. The Mary Celeste was completely intact, her cargo of denatured alcohol undisturbed, her hull sound, her rigging functional. Captain Benjamin Briggs's personal belongings remained in his cabin. His wife's sewing lay exactly where she had left it. Their 2-year-old daughter's toys were still warm to the touch on her unmade bed, as if she had just finished playing, but all 10 souls aboard the Mary Celeste had vanished without a trace. Here's what makes this disappearance truly extraordinary. There was no evidence of violence, no signs of struggle, no indication of why an experienced captain would abandon a seaworthy vessel in calm seas. The ship's chronometer was missing, suggesting a deliberate abandonment. But the lifeboat was gone too, yet no wreckage or bodies were ever found. Despite extensive searches across thousands of square miles of ocean, the Mary Celeste represents something far more unsettling than a simple maritime disaster. It's an example of what happens when the ocean decides to collect people completely, inexplicably, and without leaving any clues about how or why. But the Mary Celeste was just the beginning. Fast forward to December 5th, 1945. Lieutenant Charles Taylor led Flight 19, 5 Grumman TBM Avenger torpedo bombers, on what should have been a routine training mission from Naval Air Station Fort Lauderdale. These weren't inexperienced pilots flying unfamiliar aircraft. Taylor was a combat veteran with over 2,500 flight hours. His aircraft were equipped with the most advanced navigation equipment of their time. At 2:15 in the afternoon, Taylor's voice crackled over the radio with a transmission that would become one of aviation's most chilling mysteries. "We are entering white water. Nothing seems right. We don't know where we are. The water is green, no white." 20 minutes later, another transmission. "We can't find west. Everything is wrong. Everything looks strange. Even the ocean." Here's what's actually happening when experienced navigators lose their bearings completely. They're encountering something that our instruments weren't designed to measure. Flight 19's compasses weren't just malfunctioning. They were spinning wildly, unable to find magnetic north. The pilots reported that their backup navigation systems were giving readings that contradicted everything they could see with their eyes. At 4:25 in the afternoon, Taylor made his final transmission. "We are entering white water. Nothing seems right. We're completely lost." Then silence. A rescue plane, a Martin PBM Mariner with 13 experienced crew members aboard, was immediately dispatched to search for the missing flight. 23 minutes after takeoff, witnesses reported seeing an explosion in the sky above the search area. The rescue plane and its entire crew vanished as completely as Flight 19. 6 aircraft, 27 men, all gone without a trace in the space of 3 hours. The search that followed was massive. Over 300 aircraft and dozens of ships combed more than 250,000 square miles of ocean. They found nothing, not a single piece of wreckage, not an oil slick, not a life preserver. It was as if 27 men and 6 aircraft had simply been erased from existence. The universe has shown us through incidents like these that our oceans contain zones where the normal rules of navigation, physics and even reality itself appear to break down. What we're dealing with isn't just mechanical failure or human error. We're looking at phenomena that challenge our most basic understanding of how the physical world operates. Between 1945 and today, over 1,000 vessels have disappeared in the region now known as the Bermuda Triangle, a rate 66% higher than anywhere else on Earth's oceans. These aren't just small boats caught in sudden storms. We're talking about massive cargo ships, military vessels, and modern aircraft equipped with GPS, radar, and satellite communication systems. Consider the USS Cyclops, a Navy cargo ship 540 feet long, carrying 306 souls and 10,000 tons of manganese ore. In March 1918, the Cyclops departed Barbados bound for Baltimore, a routine journey along one of the most heavily traveled shipping lanes in the world. The ship never sent a distress signal. It never reported any problems. It simply ceased to exist somewhere between Barbados and Baltimore. Here's what makes the Cyclops' disappearance particularly troubling. The ship was built to handle rough seas and heavy cargo. Manganese ore, while dense, was a standard cargo that similar vessels transported regularly. Weather conditions were normal throughout the ship's projected route. Yet a vessel the length of 2 football fields, carrying enough metal ore to build a small skyscraper, vanished as completely as if it had never existed. When we examine these disappearances through the lens of modern science, we find patterns that suggest we're dealing with phenomena that operate outside the boundaries of conventional physics. Ships don't just sink in the deep ocean. When they sink, they leave evidence. Debris fields, oil slicks, distress signals, lifeboats, bodies. The ocean is remarkably good at preserving evidence of disasters, yet in these cases it's as if the vessels were simply edited out of reality. But the mystery deepens when we consider modern disappearances. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished with 239 people aboard. This was a Boeing 777, equipped with every modern navigation and communication system imaginable: GPS, radar transponders, satellite phones, emergency beacons. The aircraft was in constant contact with air traffic control, flying along one of the world's most monitored flight paths. At 1:21 in the morning, the aircraft's transponder went silent. Not damaged, not malfunctioning, simply silent, as if someone had flipped a switch. The last radar contact showed the plane turning sharply off course, but after that, nothing. The most expensive search in aviation history followed. 46,000 square miles of ocean combed by ships and aircraft from 14 countries. Satellite imagery analyzed every square meter of the search area. Underwater robots probed the deepest trenches. They found almost nothing. Here's what's truly unsettling about Flight 370. In an age when we can track a cell phone to within 3 feet anywhere on Earth, when satellites monitor every inch of our planet's surface, when aircraft carry dozens of systems designed to broadcast their location even in the worst disasters, a massive commercial airliner simply vanished. The few pieces of wreckage that eventually washed ashore thousands of miles away only deepened the mystery. They showed no signs of explosion, fire, or catastrophic structural failure. The ocean, it seems, has developed increasingly sophisticated methods of making things disappear. Modern oceanography has revealed some of the mechanisms that might explain these vanishings, but the explanations are almost as unsettling as the mysteries themselves. Methane hydrates, crystalline structures of methane and water, exist in massive deposits beneath the ocean floor. When geological pressure or temperature changes destabilize these deposits, they can erupt violently, releasing billions of cubic feet of gas in a matter of seconds. Here's what's actually happening when a methane eruption occurs. The gas reduces the water's density so dramatically that a ship's buoyancy drops to zero instantly. The vessel doesn't have time to sink gradually. It plunges straight down like a stone dropped through air. Within minutes, the gas dissipates, the water returns to normal density, and the surface shows no sign that anything unusual has occurred. Satellites confirmed this phenomenon in 1995 when they detected rogue waves, walls of water 95 feet tall that appear without warning in calm seas. These waves, once dismissed as sailors' myths, generate forces equivalent to a 40-story building collapsing on a ship's hull. They strike with such speed that modern vessels have no time to maneuver, no opportunity to send distress signals. But even these explanations, dramatic as they are, don't account for the complete absence of wreckage in so many cases. When the Titanic sank, it left a debris field scattered across miles of ocean floor. When ships are destroyed by rogue waves or methane eruptions, physics tells us there should be floating debris, oil slicks, pieces of superstructure that would rise to the surface, yet in case after case, we find nothing at all. The electromagnetic anomalies we discussed in the previous chapter may provide part of the answer. In certain regions of the ocean, magnetic fields spike to levels that can completely disable navigation equipment. Compasses don't just point in the wrong direction, they spin continuously at speeds that would destroy their internal mechanisms. GPS satellites lose signal lock, radio communications become impossible as electromagnetic interference drowns out all transmissions. Imagine being the captain of a ship when every instrument you rely on suddenly begins giving impossible readings. Your compass spins like a top. Your GPS shows your position jumping randomly across hundreds of miles. Your radio produces only static. In the span of minutes, you've gone from commanding a modern vessel to being completely blind and deaf in the middle of the ocean. But here's where the phenomenon becomes truly mysterious. These electromagnetic events don't affect all vessels equally. In several documented cases, ships have reported sailing through intense magnetic anomalies, while other vessels just miles away detected nothing unusual. It's as if the ocean is selective about which targets it chooses to disorient. Recent research has revealed that certain regions of the ocean exhibit what can only be described as gravitational inconsistencies. In these zones, objects don't fall straight down. They're pulled at angles that violate our understanding of how gravity works. Submarine crews have reported feeling their vessels being tugged sideways by forces that their instruments insist don't exist. When we combine all these factors, methane eruptions that can sink ships instantly, rogue waves that appear without warning, electromagnetic fields that disable navigation equipment, and gravitational anomalies that pull objects in impossible directions, we begin to see how the ocean might make large objects disappear so completely. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of these disappearances is their apparent randomness. The Mary Celeste vanished in calm seas under perfect conditions. Flight 19 disappeared on a clear afternoon during a routine training mission. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 was following a flight path used safely by thousands of aircraft every year. There's no pattern that would allow us to predict when or where these phenomena will occur. No environmental conditions that serve as warning signs. No technological solutions that guarantee safe passage through these mysterious regions. The ocean has shown us that despite our satellites, our GPS systems, our radar networks, and our constant connectivity, We still live in a world where people can simply vanish without explanation. In an age when we believe we've mapped and measured everything, the sea continues to demonstrate that there are forces operating beyond our ability to detect, predict, or understand. Tomorrow, we'll descend even deeper into mystery as we explore the creatures that call these dark waters home, beings so alien that their very existence challenges our understanding of what life can become when it evolves in the Earth's most extreme environments. We'll discover that the ocean hasn't just learned to make ships disappear, it's learned to create life forms that seem borrowed from our darkest nightmares. In the summer of 2003, a French yacht sailing in the South Pacific discovered something that shouldn't exist. When the crew hauled in their anchor after an overnight stop, they found circular marks pressed deep into their fiberglass hull, sucker marks 18 inches across, arranged in perfect spirals around sections of their boat that had been completely underwater, 18 inches across. To put that in perspective, the largest squid species known to science at that time had sucker marks no bigger than dinner plates. These marks suggested tentacles thick as tree trunks, belonging to something with an arm span that could envelope a school bus. The ocean, it seems, has been breeding monsters in the dark. Here's what's really happening in the deepest parts of our oceans. Life has had 3.5 billion years to experiment with forms and functions that would be impossible anywhere else on Earth. Without sunlight to power photosynthesis, without the familiar pressures and temperatures of the surface world, evolution has taken paths that lead to creatures so alien they might as well have evolved on another planet. But they didn't evolve on another planet. They evolved here, in the darkness beneath our feet, and they've been growing larger and stranger with each passing millennium. Sperm whales, the largest predators on Earth, regularly surface bearing scars that tell stories of battles fought in the midnight zone. These aren't ordinary scars from rocks or ship propellers. They're circular wounds arranged in patterns, sometimes covering half the whale's body, created by sucker discs lined with rotating hooks. The spacing of these scars suggests creatures with tentacles longer than freight trains, possessing gripping power that can leave permanent marks on animals weighing 60 tons. When marine biologists first examined these scars in detail, they made a disturbing discovery. Many of the wounds were fresh. These battles weren't ancient history. They were happening now, regularly, in the deep waters where our largest mammals hunt for food. Something down there was fighting sperm whales and leaving marks that proved it was winning. In 2007, New Zealand fishermen hauling in a deep-sea line found their answer hooked to their gear. A colossal squid measuring 33 feet long and weighing over 1,000 pounds. But this wasn't even a fully grown specimen. The beak size indicated it was a juvenile. Adult colossal squids, based on the scars found on sperm whales, may reach lengths of 60 feet or more. Here's what makes the colossal squid truly alien. Its eyes are the largest in the animal kingdom, 14 inches across, the size of dinner plates. These organs can detect the faintest bioluminescent glow from miles away in the absolute darkness of the deep ocean. But even more unsettling are its tentacles. Unlike other squid species, which have simple sucker discs, the colossal squid's tentacles are lined with rotating hooks that can swivel 360 degrees, slicing through anything they encounter like living chainsaws. But the colossal squid, terrifying as it is, represents just one branch of the evolutionary tree that has grown in the darkness. The deeper we go, the more alien life becomes. In 1997, hydrophones, underwater microphones designed to monitor submarine activity during the Cold War, detected something that challenged everything we thought we knew about the size limits of living creatures. The sound was designated the bloop, a low-frequency call that originated from coordinates 50 degrees south latitude, 100 degrees west longitude. Deep in the South Pacific, the bloop lasted for over a minute and was loud enough to be detected by sensors separated by 3,000 miles. To put that in perspective, blue whales, the largest animals ever known to exist, produce calls that can travel perhaps a few hundred miles under ideal conditions. The bloop was picked up across half the Pacific Ocean. Here's what's actually happening when we analyze the bloop's acoustic signature. The frequency, pattern, and volume suggest a biological source, but one that would have to be several times larger than any blue whale. We're talking about a creature with body mass that would make it the largest living thing on Earth, if it exists. But the truly unsettling part is this: the sound source moved. Over the course of several weeks, hydrophones tracked the bloop's origin point, moving across 800 miles of ocean at depths where no known creature that size could survive the pressure. Japanese research vessels have captured footage that adds another layer to this mystery. Deep-sea cameras have recorded gelatinous organisms stretching over 200 feet in length, moving through the water like living clouds. These creatures appear to have no solid structure. They're almost transparent, visible only because they bend light differently than the surrounding water. When researchers attempt to collect samples by bringing them toward the surface, the organisms dissolve completely, leaving only puzzled scientists and blurry video footage. The pressure changes that would destroy these creatures during collection tell us something important. They're specifically adapted to exist only in the deepest parts of the ocean. They literally cannot survive in our world, just as we cannot survive in theirs. In the Puerto Rico Trench, one of the deepest parts of the Atlantic Ocean, cameras have recorded something even more disturbing. A creature that generates its own electrical field, strong enough to interfere with nearby electronic equipment. The organism appears to be using bioelectricity not just for navigation or communication, but as a weapon. Video footage shows fish swimming too close to the creature and suddenly going rigid, paralyzed by electrical discharges before being consumed. But here's where the phenomenon becomes truly mysterious. The electrical field this creature generates is far stronger than anything biological science says should be possible. Electric eels, the most powerful bioelectric animals we know, can generate about 600 volts. The creature in the Puerto Rico Trench is producing fields that short-circuit equipment designed to operate at depths where pressure alone should make electrical systems impossible. Off the coast of California, the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute has recorded something that challenges our understanding of physics itself. Deep-sea cameras captured an organism that appears to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The creature's body phases in and out of visible space, appearing solid one moment and completely transparent the next, as if it's flickering between our reality and somewhere else entirely. The footage shows the organism interacting with its environment, moving objects, consuming prey, while simultaneously appearing to occupy space that should be physically impossible. Marine biologists studying the video describe it as watching something that exists only partially in our dimension, with the rest of its body extending into spaces our instruments can't detect. These discoveries force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. The deep ocean has produced life forms that operate according to principles we don't understand, using energy sources we haven't identified, and existing in ways that challenge our most basic assumptions about biology and physics. Deep-sea gigantism, the tendency for creatures to grow far larger in the deep ocean than their shallow water relatives, produces organisms that violate the square-cube law, one of biology's most fundamental principles. This law states that as creatures get larger, their volume increases faster than their surface area, making it impossible for them to obtain enough oxygen or nutrients to support their massive bodies. Yet, in the deep ocean, we find isopods the size of footballs, relatives of tiny pillbugs that have grown to proportions that should be biologically impossible. We've discovered amphipods 11 inches long in trenches where they should barely be able to survive, their metabolisms operating on principles that seem to ignore the basic physics of how living things process energy. The Dumbo octopus, living at depths of 23,000 feet. has developed fins that allow it to fly through the water like a living parachute. But analysis of its tissue reveals something extraordinary. Its cells contain structures that shouldn't be able to function under the crushing pressure of the deep ocean. The organism has somehow learned to maintain cellular integrity in an environment that would instantly destroy any surface creature. In the Mariana Trench, the deepest part of our oceans, researchers have discovered microorganisms that consume methane and sulfur compounds, converting them into energy through processes that reverse the normal flow of biochemical reactions. These creatures appear to be operating on metabolic pathways that run backward, creating order from chaos in direct violation of the second law of thermodynamics. But perhaps the most unsettling discovery is this. Many deep-sea organisms exhibit quantum coherence at body temperature. Quantum coherence, the ability for particles to exist in multiple states simultaneously, was thought to be impossible in biological systems outside of laboratory conditions, approaching absolute zero. Yet creatures living in the chaotic environment of the deep ocean are somehow maintaining quantum states in their neural systems, allowing them to process information in ways that classical physics says should be impossible. These quantum biological systems may explain some of the more mysterious behaviors observed in deep-sea creatures. The ability to navigate across thousands of miles of featureless ocean floor, to detect prey from distances that should be impossible, to coordinate hunting behaviors across vast underwater territories. All of this may be powered by quantum processes operating within living tissue. Recent expeditions have captured footage of creatures that seem to communicate through quantum entanglement, instantly sharing information across distances that would make any other form of communication impossible. Fish separated by miles of ocean have been observed responding simultaneously to threats, as if they were parts of a single organism, distributed across vast distances. The bioluminescence that powers the deep ocean's living light operates on principles that make our most advanced lighting technology look primitive. These creatures can generate cold light with 99% efficiency. Our best LED lights manage only about 20% efficiency. They can control the color, intensity, and pattern of their illumination with precision that would require sophisticated computer systems in our technology. But the truly alien aspect of deep sea bioluminescence is its apparent ability to transmit information across species barriers. Different creatures use similar light patterns to communicate, suggesting a universal language of light that evolved independently in dozens of different organisms. It's as if the darkness itself has taught these creatures to speak with photons. Some deep-sea organisms appear to exist in symbiotic relationships with quantum fields, using principles from particle physics to enhance their biological functions. They've learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of nature at the molecular level, creating living systems that operate like biological quantum computers. The vampire squid, despite its ominous name, represents perhaps the most elegant adaptation to life in the deep ocean. When threatened, it turns itself inside out, exposing bioluminescent photophores that create a light show so complex and beautiful that predators become confused, allowing the squid to escape. But analysis of this light display reveals mathematical patterns that mirror the structure of prime numbers, a level of complexity that suggests intelligence far beyond what we normally associate with invertebrate life. The ocean's deepest regions have become laboratories where life experiments with possibilities that shouldn't exist. Creatures that generate their own gravity fields, organisms that exist partially outside our dimension, beings that communicate through quantum entanglement. Each new discovery forces us to expand our definition of what life can become when it has billions of years to evolve in Earth's most extreme environments. As we explore deeper and deploy more sophisticated instruments, we continue to find creatures that challenge not just our understanding of biology, but our understanding of physics itself. The deep ocean has shown us that life, when freed from the constraints of sunlight and surface pressure, can become something far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined possible. Tomorrow, we'll explore the ruins and structures hidden beneath the waves, evidence that intelligence has been shaping the ocean floor for far longer than human civilization has existed. We'll discover that the creatures we've just encountered may not be the ocean's only inhabitants, and that the deep may hold secrets about consciousness and intelligence that predate everything we thought we knew about the history of life on Earth. In 1987, a Japanese diving instructor named Kiyachiro Arataki was exploring the waters off Yonaguni Island when he discovered something that would challenge everything archaeologists thought they knew about the timeline of human civilization. 25 meters beneath the surface, carved from solid bedrock, stood a massive stone structure that looked like it had been designed by architects who understood principles of engineering that wouldn't be rediscovered for thousands of years. The Yonaguni monument stretches 150 meters long, 40 meters wide, and 27 meters high, larger than a city block and taller than an 8-story building. But size alone isn't what makes this structure extraordinary. It's the precision of its construction that defies explanation. Here's what's actually carved into the bedrock beneath Yonaguni: terraces with perfectly straight edges, stairways with uniform step heights, corridors that maintain exact right angles for hundreds of feet, and what appears to be a stadium carved from a single piece of stone. The angles are so precise that they vary by less than 1 degree from perfect right angles, a level of accuracy that would challenge modern construction techniques. But here's where the timeline becomes impossible. The last time this area was above sea level was approximately 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age. According to conventional archaeology, human civilization 12,000 years ago consisted of small hunter-gatherer tribes who hadn't yet discovered agriculture, let alone developed the engineering skills necessary to carve massive monuments from solid rock. Yet someone or something created this structure and then watched as rising seas claimed it for the depths the universe has shown us through discoveries like Yonaguni that our oceans are hiding evidence of intelligence that predates everything we thought we knew about the development of complex societies on Earth, and Yonaguni is just the beginning. In 2001, marine archaeologists working in the Gulf of Khambhat off the coast of India made a discovery that sent shockwaves through the academic world. Using side-scan sonar, India's National Institute of Ocean Technology detected the remains of a massive city sprawling across 5 miles of ocean floor, 40 meters beneath the surface. The sonar images revealed grid-like patterns of streets, rectangular structures arranged in organized blocks, and massive buildings that suggested a level of urban planning that archaeology associates with much later civilizations. When researchers sent down remotely operated vehicles to collect artifacts, they brought up pottery, tools, and structural remains that carbon dating analysis placed at 9,500 years old. 9,500 years ago, 4,000 years before the Indus Valley civilization, which had previously been considered the earliest example of urban planning in the Indian subcontinent. Here's what makes the Khambhat discovery truly revolutionary. The artifacts show evidence of advanced ceramics, sophisticated tool-making, and architectural planning that suggests these weren't primitive settlements. We're looking at evidence of a fully developed urban civilization that thrived when conventional history tells us such civilizations didn't yet exist. But the mystery deepens when we examine where these cities are located. The Gulf of Khambhat site is positioned exactly where computer models predict the ancient Saraswati River would have reached the sea during the last ice age. Ancient Sanskrit texts describe the Saraswati as a mighty river along whose banks great cities flourished before it disappeared into the desert. For centuries, scholars dismissed these descriptions as mythology. The ocean floor has proven them wrong. Off the coast of Cuba, Canadian researchers Paul Weinsweig and Pauline Zalitsky were conducting routine sonar mapping when their instruments detected something unprecedented in 2001. At a depth of 600 meters, covering nearly 8 square miles of ocean floor, lay geometric stone structures arranged in patterns that suggested deliberate construction on a massive scale. The sonar images showed pyramids, rectangular buildings arranged around central plazas, and what appeared to be roads connecting different sections of the complex. But here's what makes this discovery truly extraordinary. The structures are built from blocks weighing several tons each, positioned with precision that would require sophisticated engineering knowledge. When remotely operated vehicles captured video footage of the site, the images revealed smooth-cut stone surfaces covered in symbols and markings that don't match any known writing system. The arrangement of the structures follows mathematical principles that mirror the layout of later civilizations. But the construction techniques appear to be far more advanced than anything those later cultures achieved. The depth of the Cuban structures tells us they've been underwater for at least 50,000 years, long before humans were supposed to have developed the capabilities necessary for monumental architecture. Yet someone built these cities, lived in them, and watched as the rising seas claimed them for the deep. In the Baltic Sea, Swedish treasure hunters Ocean X team made a discovery in 2011 that has marine archaeologists completely baffled. At a depth of 90 meters, their sonar detected a circular structure 200 feet in diameter with features that seem to defy natural formation. The Baltic Sea anomaly, as it's come to be known, exhibits perfect geometric angles that nature doesn't produce. The structure has corridors, chambers, and what appears to be a staircase leading to a dark opening in its center. Most unsettling of all, the object appears to be resting on top of the seafloor rather than being embedded in it, as if it was placed there deliberately. Here's what makes the Baltic Sea anomaly truly mysterious. The rock it's carved from predates the last ice age by millions of years, yet the cutting and shaping show tool marks that suggest precision machining. The structure exhibits features that look artificial, too regular, too geometric, too purposeful to be natural formations. When divers approached the anomaly, their equipment began malfunctioning. Cameras stopped working, metal objects became magnetized, and electronic instruments gave readings that made no sense. It's as if the structure itself generates some kind of field that interferes with modern technology. Off the coast of Bimini in the Bahamas, archaeologists have discovered what appears to be a road built from massive limestone blocks. The Bimini Road stretches for half a mile in a perfectly straight line, composed of stones weighing up to 15 tons each, cut and fitted with precision that rivals the best ancient masonry work. But here's what makes the Bimini Road impossible, according to conventional timelines. It was built when sea levels were 300 feet lower than they are today. The engineering required to quarry, transport and position stones of this size would have required a level of technological sophistication that mainstream archaeology doesn't associate with any known ancient civilization. In the Americas, core samples from beneath the road reveal that it was constructed on dry land, with drainage systems and foundation work that suggests the builders understood advanced principles of civil engineering. The road appears to connect to other submerged structures scattered across the Bahamas, forming what may be the remnants of a transportation network serving an extensive coastal civilization. In the Mediterranean, fishermen regularly dredge up bronze artifacts that tell a story of technological advancement that shouldn't have existed in the ancient world. The most famous of these discoveries is the Antikythera mechanism, a bronze device recovered from a shipwreck dating to approximately 100 BCE. When researchers first examined the Antikythera mechanism, they assumed it was some kind of simple astrolabe or navigational instrument. But as they studied it more closely, they realized they were looking at something far more sophisticated, a mechanical computer capable of predicting the positions of the sun, moon, and planets with remarkable accuracy. Here's what's actually inside the Antikythera mechanism, a complex system of bronze gears, some with teeth so small they can barely be seen with the naked eye, arranged in configurations that wouldn't be reinvented until the development of mechanical clocks in medieval Europe, over 1,000 years later. The device could calculate eclipse dates, predict the timing of the Olympic Games, and track the complex orbital mechanics of the solar system. But the Antikythera mechanism represents just one example of advanced technology that ended up on the ocean floor. Mediterranean fishing nets regularly bring up bronze gears, precision instruments, and mechanical devices that suggest the ancient world possessed scientific knowledge that was supposedly lost for centuries. The pattern that emerges from these discoveries is deeply unsettling. Evidence of advanced civilizations that thrived when human beings were supposedly living in primitive conditions, then vanished beneath rising seas that erased almost all traces of their existence. But the ocean preserved what the land could. Not recent underwater surveys using advanced sonar and deep-sea robotics have revealed that these discoveries represent only a tiny fraction of what lies hidden beneath the waves. Off the coasts of every continent, researchers are finding evidence of sophisticated construction, urban planning, and technological advancement that pushes back the timeline of human civilization by thousands, and in some cases tens of thousands of years. The Doggerland region, now submerged beneath the North Sea, once connected Britain to mainland Europe during the last ice age. Archaeological surveys of this drowned landscape have revealed not just primitive hunting camps, but evidence of large settlements with sophisticated agriculture, advanced tool-making, and what appears to be monumental architecture, rivaling anything built by later European civilizations. Here's what's truly remarkable about these underwater discoveries. They're forcing us to completely revise our understanding of how human civilization developed. Instead of a gradual progression from simple hunter-gatherers to complex societies, we're seeing evidence of advanced cultures that rose and fell multiple times throughout prehistory. With each cycle of rising and falling seas, erasing most traces of their achievements, the precision and scale of construction found in these underwater sites suggests that our ancestors possessed engineering knowledge that we've only recently rediscovered. The builders of Yonaguni understood how to work with massive stone blocks in ways that modern construction crews struggle to replicate. The planners of the combat cities designed urban layouts that follow principles of organization that wouldn't be formalized by architects until thousands of years later. But perhaps most unsettling of all is the realization that these civilizations didn't just build impressive structures, they built them in places that are now impossible to reach except with advanced diving technology. It's as if they knew that their cities would one day be claimed by the sea and designed them specifically to preserve their legacy in the deep ocean. The symbols and markings found on many of these structures don't match any known writing systems, suggesting that entire languages and knowledge systems have been lost beneath the waves. We're looking at evidence of human cultures that developed completely independently from the civilizations that we consider the foundations of our historical knowledge. The mathematical precision found in the layout of these underwater cities indicates that their builders understood principles of engineering, astronomy, and physics that wouldn't be rediscovered until the Renaissance. They built drainage systems that still function after thousands of years underwater. They created structures so precisely aligned with astronomical phenomena that they serve as calendars and observatories, even in their submerged state. As our technology advances and we're able to explore more of the ocean floor in detail, we continue to find evidence that human civilization is far older and more sophisticated than we ever imagined. Each new discovery forces us to push back the timeline of when our species developed advanced technology, complex societies, and monumental architecture. The ocean has become a vast museum preserving the achievements of civilizations that thrived when most of our planet's current landmasses were configured completely differently. These sunken empires represent not just archaeological curiosities, but proof that human intelligence and creativity have been shaping our world for far longer than we ever dared to imagine. Tomorrow, we'll explore regions of the ocean where the very laws of physics seem to break down, places where reality itself becomes fluid and the impossible becomes routine. We'll discover that the builders of these ancient cities may have understood something about the nature of reality that we're only beginning to glimpse. Through our most advanced scientific instruments, in the waters off Norway's coast, something impossible happens on a regular basis. The Hess-Darwin lights, electromagnetic phenomena that have puzzled scientists for decades, don't just pulse through the atmosphere above the fjords. They continue their mysterious dance beneath the waves, moving through seawater as easily as they move through air. Following no known laws of physics, Dr. Erling Strand from Østfold University College has been monitoring these phenomena since 1983, and his instruments consistently record something that shouldn't exist. Structured electromagnetic fields that maintain coherence underwater, while generating light that registers on multiple wavelengths simultaneously. But here's what makes the underwater Hess-Darwin lights truly extraordinary. They respond to observation. When research vessels approach the lights, the phenomena change their behavior. They alter their frequency patterns, modify their intensity, and sometimes even change direction, as if aware they're being watched. It's as if the ocean itself has developed a form of consciousness that can detect and respond to human presence. The universe has shown us through phenomena like these that certain regions of our oceans operate according to principles that exist outside our current understanding of physics. In these zones, the boundary between the possible and impossible becomes remarkably fluid. Off the coast of Japan lies an area known to local fishermen as the Devil's Sea, a region that has swallowed over 700 vessels since records began. But the Devil's Sea isn't just dangerous because of storms or rough waters. It's dangerous because reality itself seems to malfunction there. Modern research vessels equipped with the most advanced navigation and monitoring equipment report experiences that sound like science fiction. Compasses don't just malfunction. They spin at 3,000 revolutions per minute while continuing to point in impossible directions. GPS satellites lose signal lock completely, as if the vessels have somehow moved outside the range of orbital coverage. Radio communications become impossible, as electromagnetic interference drowns out all transmissions in patterns that suggest intentional jamming. But perhaps most unsettling of all are the reports from submarine crews who describe water that glows without light, a phenomenon their instruments detect but cannot explain. The water appears luminous to the human eye, yet spectrometric analysis shows no increase in photon emission. It's as if these regions have learned to generate illumination that exists only in human perception. Here's what's actually happening when experienced naval officers report these phenomena. They're encountering electromagnetic fields that spike to levels 10,000 times greater than Earth's normal magnetic field strength. To put that in perspective, these are magnetic field strengths normally associated with the vicinity of neutron stars, objects so dense that a teaspoon of their material would weigh 6 billion tons, yet these impossible magnetic fields are occurring at sea level, in regions where conventional physics says they cannot exist. In the Mediterranean, an area ancient Romans called the Dragon Triangle exhibits phenomena that challenge our understanding of time itself. Roman chronicles describe encounters with time flowing backward, sailors who aged in reverse during their voyages or who arrived at their destinations days before they had departed. Modern historians dismiss these accounts as mythology until contemporary instruments began detecting the same temporal anomalies. Atomic clocks, devices so precise they lose less than 1 second every 20 million years, consistently malfunction when ships pass through certain coordinates in the Mediterranean. The clocks don't just stop or run fast. They run backward, showing earlier times than when the ships entered the region. Multiple independent chronometers on the same vessel will show different times, sometimes varying by hours despite being synchronized before entering the anomalous zone. Submarine crews operating in these waters report experiencing time slip, zones where chronometers lose hours in what feels like minutes to the crew. Navigation logs show vessels covering distances that should take days in time periods that their instruments insist lasted only hours. Yet the crews experience normal subjective time passage. It's only their instruments that suggest temporal distortion. The Milwaukee Deep, located in the Puerto Rico Trench, exhibits gravitational anomalies that violate every law of fluid dynamics. In this region, water flows upward against gravity in spirals visible to the naked eye. These aren't temporary whirlpools caused by currents or tidal forces. They're stable vortices that maintain their structure for hours, defying the fundamental principle that water flows downhill. Here's what's truly impossible about the Milwaukee Deep phenomena. The water flowing upward shows no decrease in velocity as it rises. According to physics, any object moving against gravity should slow down as it loses kinetic energy to gravitational potential energy. But the water in these upward spirals maintains constant velocity, as if gravity itself is flowing in reverse. Gravitational. Sensors deployed in the region detect mass that isn't there. Phantom gravitational sources that pull objects in directions that contradict every known law of physics. Objects dropped into the water don't fall straight down. They're pulled at angles that change unpredictably, following trajectories that trace impossible curves through three-dimensional space. In 2016, the research vessel Petrel documented perhaps the most unsettling phenomenon yet discovered in these anomalous zones. In an area near Puerto Rico, their instruments detected water existing simultaneously as liquid and vapor at standard atmospheric pressure, a phase state that thermodynamics insists cannot occur at sea-level temperatures. The water exhibited properties of both liquid and gas at the same time. It flowed like a liquid, while also diffusing like a vapor, maintaining density characteristics of both phases simultaneously. Samples brought to the surface immediately normalized into standard liquid water, but video footage clearly shows the dual-phase behavior occurring naturally at depth. But here's where the phenomenon becomes truly mysterious. The dual-phase water appears to be stable indefinitely. It's not a momentary transition state between liquid and vapor. It's a permanent condition that exists only in these specific oceanic regions, as if the normal rules governing matter have been suspended. Recent expeditions have discovered zones where electromagnetic readings fluctuate in patterns that suggest the presence of massive metallic structures beneath the seafloor. Yet sonar and magnetic resonance imaging detect no solid objects. It's as if something with the electromagnetic signature of a city-sized metal construction is present but invisible to conventional detection methods. These phantom structures generate electromagnetic fields that interfere with navigation equipment in predictable patterns, creating electronic shadows that ships must navigate around despite being unable to detect the source of the interference. The fields pulse in synchronized patterns across vast areas, suggesting coordination between multiple sources operating according to principles we don't understand. In the North Atlantic, research teams have documented regions where the ocean's electromagnetic properties change so dramatically that standard radio frequencies become visible light. Submarine crews report seeing their radio transmissions as streams of colored light moving through the water, while their communications equipment continues to function normally despite the apparent conversion of radio waves into photons. The frequency conversion occurs only in specific zones and affects only certain wavelengths, suggesting that whatever is causing the phenomenon can discriminate between different types of electromagnetic radiation. The converted light follows patterns that mirror the original radio signals. Creating underwater light shows that perfectly reproduce human communications in visual form. Perhaps most disturbing are the reports of localized entropy reversals, regions where the natural tendency toward disorder appears to run backward. In these zones, scattered particles spontaneously organize themselves into complex patterns. Heat flows from cold areas to warm ones, and broken objects have been observed reassembling themselves. The entropy reversals occur in spherical zones ranging from a few meters to several kilometers in diameter. Within these spheres, thermodynamics operates in reverse, while the surrounding water follows normal physical laws. The boundaries between normal and reversed entropy are sharply defined, creating invisible barriers that exist purely as differences in the direction of physical processes and instruments. Deployed in these regions record temperature gradients that violate the second law of thermodynamics. Chemical reactions that proceed backward without external energy input, and mechanical systems that gain energy rather than losing it to friction. It's as if these zones exist in a universe where time flows backward at the molecular level. The phenomenon extends to biological systems as well. Marine life caught in entropy reversal zones exhibits behavior that appears to run in reverse. Fish swimming backward while maintaining forward orientation, bioluminescent organisms absorbing light rather than emitting it, and damaged tissue healing instantaneously through processes that reverse normal cellular decay. Quantum sensors deployed in these anomalous regions detect particle behaviors that suggest parallel dimensions may intersect at extreme oceanic pressures. The instruments record quantum states that shouldn't be stable outside of theoretical physics laboratories, including particles that appear to exist in multiple locations simultaneously and quantum entanglement effects that operate across macroscopic distances. The quantum effects seem to be triggered by the extreme pressure conditions found in deep ocean trenches, but they manifest in ways that extend far beyond the immediate environment. Researchers have detected quantum tunneling events involving objects large enough to be visible to the naked eye, and quantum superposition, states that persist for hours rather than the microseconds normally associated with quantum decoherence. These quantum phenomena may explain some of the other anomalies observed in these regions. If matter at extreme oceanic depths can exist in quantum superposition states, it might account for the phase transitions, electromagnetic anomalies, and temporal distortions that characterize these zones where reality appears to break down. Recent theoretical work suggests that the extreme conditions found in deep ocean trenches, crushing pressure, total darkness, intense electromagnetic fields may create natural laboratories where quantum effects can operate at macro scales. The ocean depths may represent the only place on Earth where the boundaries between quantum mechanics and classical physics become permeable. The implications are staggering. If these regions truly represent zones where different physical laws apply, they suggest that our universe may be far more flexible than we ever imagined. The ocean depths may serve as gateways to alternative realities where matter, energy, space, and time operate according to principles that we're only beginning to glimpse through our most advanced theoretical physics. As our instruments become more sophisticated, we continue to discover new examples of these reality-bending phenomena. Each discovery forces us to expand our understanding of what's possible, pushing the boundaries of known physics into territories that were previously relegated to science fiction. The ocean has shown us that the universe is stranger, more flexible, and more wonderful than our current theories can explain. In its deepest regions, reality itself becomes experimental, creating natural laboratories where the impossible becomes routine, and the laws of physics learn to bend without breaking. Tomorrow, we'll explore the sounds that emerge from these impossible depths, transmissions that suggest intelligence operating according to principles we can barely comprehend. Voices from the void that may represent our first contact with forms of consciousness that exist beyond the boundaries of our current understanding. On May 19th, 1997, hydrophones scattered across the Pacific Ocean detected something that shouldn't have been possible. The sound lasted for over a minute, peaked at 190 decibels, and was loud enough to be recorded by sensors separated by more than 3,000 miles. The frequency pattern suggested a biological source, but the volume indicated something several times larger than any blue whale that has ever lived. They called it the bloop, but here's what makes the bloop truly extraordinary. The source was moving. Over the course of several weeks, the sound's point of origin traveled across 800 miles of ocean at depths where no known creature of that size could survive the crushing pressure. Whatever made the bloop wasn't just impossibly large, it was impossibly mobile for something of its apparent size. Since 1997, the network of hydrophones originally deployed to monitor submarine activity during the Cold War has recorded 6 distinct sound signatures that suggest sources beyond known physics or biology. Each one challenges our understanding of what can exist in the deep ocean, and each one raises the unsettling possibility that we're not alone in the depths beneath our planet's surface. The universe has gifted us with ears sensitive enough to detect these transmissions from the void, but it hasn't given us the knowledge to understand what we're hearing. The sounds emerging from our ocean's deepest regions suggest forms of intelligence and communication that operate on scales and principles we're only beginning to comprehend. In 1999, the same hydrophone network detected what researchers designated as Julia, a sound that lasted exactly 15 seconds and resembled nothing so much as something enormous breathing through water. The frequency pattern rose and fell in rhythmic cycles that matched no known geological phenomenon, no documented marine life, and no human-made source. Here's what's actually happening when we analyze Julia's acoustic signature. The sound exhibits characteristics of both organic respiration and mechanical operation simultaneously. The frequency modulation follows patterns associated with biological breathing, but the volume and resonance suggest a source with mechanical amplification, capabilities far beyond anything in the natural world. Julia originated from coordinates in the South Pacific, where the ocean floor plunges to depths of over 20,000 feet. At those depths, the pressure reaches 600 times greater than at sea level, conditions that would instantly compress any air-breathing organism into a fraction of its surface size. Yet something down there was producing sounds that resembled the breathing patterns of a living creature. The upsweep has been broadcasting continuously since 1991, a mechanical sound that grows stronger each spring, like a vast underwater engine that awakens with the seasons. The sound originates from the same Pacific region as the bloop, but unlike other mysterious transmissions, the upsweep never stops. It pulses through the ocean depths 24 hours a day, year after year, with a regularity that suggests either a biological process operating on annual cycles or a machine that has been running autonomously for over 3 decades. The frequency pattern of the upsweep exhibits characteristics that acoustic engineers associate with rotating machinery, yet no geological process known to science could maintain such consistent mechanical rhythms for decades. The sound emanates from waters where no volcanic activity exists, no tectonic movement occurs, and no human-made installations operate. But perhaps most unsettling is the way the upsweep's intensity varies with Earth's seasonal cycles. The sound grows stronger during spring in the northern hemisphere and weaker during winter, as if responding to changes in solar radiation. day length, or some other planetary rhythm. Whatever is generating the upsweep appears to be synchronized with astronomical phenomena in ways that suggest awareness of conditions far above the ocean surface. The 52 Hertz whale represents one of the ocean's most haunting mysteries. First detected in 1989, this creature calls at a frequency that no other whale species uses, traveling alone on migration paths that match no known cetacean route. For over 3 decades, hydrophones have tracked this solitary voice, crossing entire ocean basins, calling out in a frequency that no other whale can hear or respond to. Here's what makes the 52 Hertz whale so mysterious. Its call signature is completely unique. Whale songs exist within specific frequency ranges that allow different species to communicate across vast distances. Blue whales call at 10 to 40 Hertz, humpbacks at 30 to 8,000 Hertz. But the 52 Hertz whale broadcasts exactly in between, at a frequency that isolates it from all other marine life. The creature may be the last member of an unknown species, a hybrid that cannot communicate with any living whale population, or something else entirely, a possibility that acoustic researchers are reluctant to discuss publicly. Its migration patterns don't follow food sources, breeding grounds, or any of the environmental factors that drive normal whale behavior. It simply travels alone, calling out in a voice that nothing else answers. Recent analysis of the 52 Hertz recordings has revealed something even more disturbing. The calls exhibit mathematical patterns that suggest structured communication rather than simple animal vocalizations. The frequency modulations follow sequences that mirror prime number progressions, and the timing between calls exhibits ratios found in advanced mathematical constants. In 1997, hydrophones detected what researchers designated as the whistle, a single note held for 4 minutes at a frequency that penetrated steel, submarine hulls, and caused crews to experience synchronized auditory hallucinations. The sound occurred only once, emanating from coordinates in the North Pacific that showed no unusual geological activity before or after the event. The whistle's frequency was precisely tuned to resonate with the molecular structure of seawater, creating harmonics that traveled thousands of miles without significant attenuation. But here's what makes the event truly extraordinary. Multiple submarine crews separated by hundreds of miles reported identical hallucinations during the 4 minutes the whistle was active. The crews described hearing voices speaking in languages they didn't recognize, musical patterns that seemed to convey complex emotional information, and what some described as mathematical concepts being sung. The hallucinations stopped the instant the whistle ended, and no similar effects have been observed before or since. Acoustic analysis of the whistle reveals that it was precisely engineered to affect human neural activity. The frequency and harmonic structure were perfectly calculated to trigger specific brainwave patterns associated with altered states of consciousness. Whatever generated the whistle understood human neurology well enough to create an acoustic key that could unlock specific mental states. In 2018, Chinese deep-sea monitoring stations recorded what they initially classified as equipment malfunction. Their hydrophones were detecting structured transmissions from the deepest part of the Mariana Trench, signals that exhibited mathematical patterns similar to pulsar transmissions, but originated from a biological source 11 kilometers beneath the surface. The transmissions consist of precisely timed pulses that follow prime number sequences, Fibonacci progressions, and mathematical constants like pi and the golden ratio. The patterns are too complex and too precise to be coincidental, suggesting intelligence capable of sophisticated mathematical communication. But they're originating from the most extreme environment on Earth, where pressure and temperature conditions should make complex life impossible. Here's what's truly remarkable about the Mariana Trench transmissions. They respond to human sonar pings with variations that suggest intentional communication. When research vessels send acoustic signals toward the trench, the mathematical transmissions modify their patterns in ways that mirror the artificial signals, as if something down there is trying to establish a dialogue using mathematics as a universal language. The response patterns show clear evidence of learning and adaptation. Early interactions produced simple echoes and basic mathematical progressions. Over months of contact, the responses have become increasingly sophisticated, incorporating more complex mathematical concepts and even attempting to replicate the acoustic signatures of human speech. Recent transmissions from the Mariana source have included what acoustic linguists describe as attempts at human language formation. The signals now incorporate frequency patterns that mirror consonants and vowels, arranged in sequences that suggest grammatical structure. Whatever is generating these sounds has been analyzing human communication and attempting to develop its own version of human speech. But perhaps most unsettling is the realization that these mathematical transmissions aren't random broadcasts. They're directed specifically toward human listening posts. The signals adjust their frequency and intensity to optimize reception by human-built hydrophones, and they only occur when human vessels are in the area. It's as if something in the deepest part of our ocean has been waiting for us to develop the technology to hear it. The acoustic phenomena emerging from our ocean depths suggest forms of intelligence that operate on scales and principles completely alien to human experience. These aren't simple animal calls or geological sounds. They're structured communications that demonstrate mathematical knowledge, linguistic adaptation, and awareness of human presence. Some of the sounds suggest creatures or entities capable of sustaining complex vocalizations for hours or days at volumes that would require energy sources far beyond normal biological capabilities. Others demonstrate understanding of human psychology and neurology precise enough to trigger specific mental states through pure acoustic manipulation. The frequency patterns and mathematical content of these transmissions indicate intelligence capable of abstract reasoning, complex mathematics, and sophisticated understanding of physical principles. Yet they originate from regions of our planet where conventional science says complex intelligence shouldn't be able to evolve or survive. Recent developments have revealed coordinated acoustic behavior across multiple ocean basins. Transmissions detected in the Pacific show timing correlations with sounds recorded in the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, suggesting a global network of communication that operates beneath our awareness. The coordination occurs at the speed of sound through water, indicating that whatever is generating these signals has established communication links across entire ocean systems. The mathematical complexity of the coordinated transmission suggests intelligence, capable of solving computational problems that challenge our most advanced computer systems. The signals incorporate solutions to mathematical theorems that human mathematicians have struggled with for decades, transmitted as acoustic patterns through the deep ocean. But perhaps most remarkably, the transmissions appear to be teaching us. Recent mathematical content includes solutions to problems that human researchers were actively working on, presented in acoustic form, months before human mathematicians reached the same conclusions through conventional research. It's as if something in the ocean depths has been monitoring human scientific progress and offering guidance through mathematical communication. The implications are staggering. If these acoustic phenomena represent genuine intelligence, we may be receiving communications from forms of consciousness that have been sharing our planet for far longer than human civilization has existed. The ocean depths may harbor intelligences that have been developing mathematics, physics, and communication technologies in complete isolation from surface life. The sounds from the void suggest that Earth's oceans may be home to civilizations that operate according to principles we're only beginning to understand. These intelligences may have been observing human development, learning our languages and mathematics, and now attempting to establish contact through the only medium available to them, sound transmitted through the deep ocean. As our acoustic monitoring capabilities improve, we continue to detect new types of transmissions that demonstrate increasingly sophisticated attempts at communication. The ocean depths are no longer silent. They're filled with voices speaking in languages of mathematics and music that we're only beginning to learn how to hear. Tomorrow, we'll explore what the future holds as our technology advances and our understanding deepens. We'll discover that the mysteries we've encountered are just the beginning of what the ocean has to teach us, and that the greatest discoveries may still lie ahead as we learn to communicate with intelligences that have been waiting in the depths for us to develop ears capable of hearing their ancient songs. By the year 2050, rising seas will have claimed coastlines that hold evidence of civilizations we haven't yet discovered. Miami's skyscrapers will stand knee-deep in water that conceals Tequesta settlements from 1,000 years ago. The Nile Delta will surrender Alexandria's lost libraries to waves that have been patient for centuries. But as the ocean claims new territories, it will simultaneously reveal lands that have been hidden since the last ice age ended 12,000 years ago. Here's what's actually happening as our planet's ice continues to melt. We're not just losing coastal areas to rising waters. We're gaining access to submerged landscapes that have been locked beneath ice sheets for millennia. In Greenland and Antarctica, melting ice is exposing coastal regions that haven't seen sunlight since before human civilization began. These newly revealed territories may contain evidence of life, intelligence, and technology that predates everything we thought we knew about our planet's history. The universe has given us a choice. We can watch passively as the ocean reclaims our coastal cities, or we can use this transformation as an opportunity to explore realms that have been inaccessible for thousands of years. The same climate changes that threaten our current civilization may unlock the greatest archaeological discoveries in human history. Quantum sensors deployed in the deep ocean trenches during 2023 have detected particle behaviors that suggest parallel dimensions may intersect at extreme pressures. The instruments record quantum states that shouldn't be stable outside of theoretical physics laboratories, particles existing in multiple locations simultaneously, quantum entanglement effects operating across macroscopic distances, and what appears to be matter phasing in and out of our reality. Here's what's truly extraordinary about these quantum effects. They seem to be triggered by specific combinations of pressure, electromagnetic fields, and gravitational anomalies that occur naturally only in the deepest parts of our oceans. At depths approaching 40,000 feet, where pressure exceeds 1,600 times atmospheric pressure, the normal boundaries between quantum mechanics and classical physics begin to break down. The quantum phenomena may explain many of the mysteries we've encountered throughout our journey into the deep ocean, the creatures that appear to exist in multiple dimensions, the electromagnetic anomalies that defy conventional physics, the temporal distortions that affect our instruments. All of these may be manifestations of quantum effects operating at scales we never thought possible. Recent theoretical work suggests that extreme oceanic conditions create natural quantum computers more powerful than anything human technology has achieved. The deep ocean trenches may function as vast information processing systems, using quantum entanglement and superposition to perform calculations that span entire ocean basins. If this theory proves correct, the ocean itself may possess computational capabilities that dwarf our most advanced artificial intelligence systems. The Ocean Exploration Initiative's newest submersible, rated to withstand pressures at 50,000 feet, carries instruments that detect dark matter interactions, one of the fundamental forces of the universe that we've never been able to observe directly. Preliminary data suggests that certain deep-sea creatures may navigate using dark matter fields, sensing gravitational variations that are completely invisible to our current technology. Here's what this means for our understanding of life itself. If organisms in the deep ocean have evolved sensory systems that can detect dark matter, they may be accessing information about the universe that we can't even measure with our most sophisticated instruments. These creatures might navigate using cosmic maps that track the movement of galaxies, sense the gravitational effects of distant black holes, or respond to dark matter streams flowing through our solar system. The implications extend far beyond marine biology. If evolution has produced biological systems capable of dark matter detection, it suggests that life can develop sensory capabilities that transcend anything we thought possible. The deep ocean may harbor creatures that exist partially in our dimension and partially in dark matter space, explaining some of the phase-shifting phenomena that our cameras have recorded. Artificial intelligence systems analyzing decades of ocean data have discovered patterns that suggest the ocean operates as a singular conscious system. The deep currents function like neural networks, processing information across entire ocean basins in patterns that mirror the activity of a vast planetary brain. Temperature fluctuations, chemical gradients, and electromagnetic variations appear to propagate through the ocean system in ways that suggest coordinated information processing on a global scale. The AI analysis has identified what appear to be memory formation, processes within the ocean's circulation patterns, information about environmental changes, biological events, and even human activities seems to be encoded in current systems and preserved for decades or centuries. The ocean may be maintaining a detailed record of everything that has ever happened on our planet's surface, stored in patterns of water movement that we're only now learning to decode. But perhaps most remarkably, the ocean appears to be actively hiding certain regions from human observation. As our technology becomes more sophisticated, some areas of the ocean seem to generate interference that increases proportionally to our observational capabilities. It's as if the ocean can sense the resolution and sensitivity of our instruments and adjusts its behavior to remain one step ahead of our ability to fully understand it. Projects currently underway aim to decode the ocean's information storage systems and establish direct communication with what may be planetary-scale intelligence. Researchers are developing acoustic interfaces that can transmit mathematical concepts directly into the ocean's circulation patterns, hoping to establish a dialogue with whatever consciousness may exist within the global water system. The discovery of extremophils thriving in conditions that replicate alien worlds has revolutionized our understanding of where life can exist. We found organisms that incorporate silicon into their biological structures, creatures that metabolize sulfur compounds in ways that mirror the atmospheric chemistry of Venus, and bacteria that thrive at temperatures above water's boiling point while maintaining complex cellular processes. These discoveries suggest that Earth's oceans may harbor life forms that originated elsewhere in the universe. The deep ocean trenches create conditions similar to those found on Jupiter's moon Europa, Saturn's moon Enceladus, and planets orbiting distant stars. If life can thrive in Earth's most extreme oceanic environments, it can almost certainly exist in the subsurface oceans of icy moons throughout our solar system. But here's where the implications become truly staggering. Some of the extremophiles we've discovered exhibit genetic patterns that don't match any known evolutionary lineage on Earth. Their DNA contains sequences that appear to be artificially designed, with error correction mechanisms and information storage capabilities that exceed anything found in naturally evolved organisms. These organisms may represent our first contact with extraterrestrial life, not visiting from distant stars, but living quietly in our deepest ocean trenches, possibly for millions of years before human civilization began. The ocean depths may serve as a refuge for life forms that arrived on Earth through cosmic impacts, survived mass extinction events, and continued evolving in isolation from surface life. Recent advances in quantum biology have revealed that many deep-sea organisms use quantum entanglement for instantaneous communication across vast distances. Schools of deep-sea fish coordinate their movements through quantum correlation rather than visual or acoustic signals, maintaining perfect synchronization across territories spanning thousands of miles. This quantum communication network may extend beyond individual species to encompass entire ocean ecosystems. The mathematical transmissions we detected from the Mariana Trench may represent just one node in a global quantum communication system that connects all deep ocean life into a single, interconnected intelligence. The quantum entanglement networks may also explain how deep-sea creatures can respond instantly to environmental changes occurring on the opposite side of the planet. Seismic events, temperature fluctuations, and chemical changes in one ocean basin trigger coordinated responses in marine life throughout the global ocean system, suggesting information transfer that occurs faster than light speed through quantum channels. As our instruments become more sensitive to quantum phenomena, we're discovering that the boundary between individual organisms and collective intelligence becomes increasingly blurred in the deep ocean. What we initially interpreted as separate creatures may actually be components of distributed organisms that exist across multiple dimensions and communicate through quantum entanglement. The future of ocean exploration will require technologies that can interface with quantum communication systems, detect dark matter interactions, and operate within dimensions that exist parallel to our normal space-time. We're developing instruments that can phase shift between dimensions, quantum computers that can process information using dark matter interactions, and communication devices that operate through quantum entanglement rather than electromagnetic radiation. These technologies will allow us to explore not just the physical depths of our oceans, but the alternate realities that intersect with our normal dimension at extreme pressures and depths. We may discover that the deep ocean serves as a gateway to parallel universes where different laws of physics apply, where life has evolved along completely different pathways, and where intelligence has developed capabilities that transcend our current understanding of consciousness itself. The mathematical transmissions from the deep may represent attempts by transdimensional intelligences to prepare us for contact with realities that exist beyond our normal perception. The patterns they've shared, prime numbers, mathematical constants, solutions to complex theorems, may be a universal language designed to expand our consciousness and prepare us for communication with forms of intelligence that operate across multiple dimensions. Simultaneously, by 2075, we may discover that Earth's oceans are not just the largest unexplored frontier on our planet. They may be the largest unexplored frontier in our local region of the universe. The deep ocean trenches could serve as natural wormholes connecting our planet to distant galaxies, cosmic highways that allow consciousness and information to travel instantaneously across interstellar distances. The creatures we've encountered in the deepest waters may be ambassadors from civilizations that exist on planets orbiting distant stars, using quantum entanglement and dark matter interactions to maintain contact with Earth through our ocean depths. The mathematical communications, the impossible physics, the reality-bending phenomena, all of this may represent our first introduction to a galactic community that has been patiently waiting for human technology to advance enough to detect their presence. As we stand on the threshold of these discoveries, we must prepare for the possibility that everything we thought we knew about life, intelligence, and our place in the universe will be transformed by what we find in the depths beneath our feet. The ocean has shown us that reality is far stranger, far more flexible, and far more wonderful than we ever dared to imagine. The greatest mysteries may not lie in distant galaxies or parallel dimensions, accessible only through theoretical physics. They may be waiting for us in the darkness beneath our own waves, in depths we can reach with technology we're building today, in communication with intelligences that have been sharing our planet since long before human civilization began. The ocean is vast, patient, and full of secrets that could reshape our understanding of existence itself. As our tools grow more sophisticated and our consciousness expands to encompass quantum realities and transdimensional possibilities, we're discovering that the most profound questions about the nature of reality may have their answers waiting in the deep. The mysteries multiply exponentially with each discovery, proving that the ocean doesn't surrender its secrets. It trades them for deeper enigmas that challenge not just what we know, but what we're capable of knowing. Tomorrow's ocean will reveal wonders that today seem impossible, and those discoveries will open doorways to mysteries that we cannot yet even imagine. The deep is calling. It has been calling for billions of years. And finally, after eons of silence, we're learning how to answer.